Jones.
Keith Kozowski.
Stephen King.
So we have a quorum. So with that, we're going to go straight into our regular session. So if y'all will, please join me in the invocation. And after that, we'll go straight into our pledge. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening to ask that will guide this council on to make decisions what's best for our community and our city. And also ask a special blessing upon the Wise County residents as they we go through started this trial this week on Athena, that they'll be able to feel that comfort, and that the family especially feel the comfort of thee and the community as we rally around them and support them through this as they relive this horrible tragedy. We ask thee in the name of thy Son Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. That's a stand up. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Any announcements, special recognitions going on?
Not tonight, sir.
City Administrator's report?
Yes, sir. I just have 2 items for the council. I would like to remind you that we have our Keep Me Fairly Beautiful cleanup event Saturday. We'll be meeting here at 8 o'clock. We're cleaning up along South US 287 again, frontage road on the northbound side. So if you're able to come out and help us out, we would appreciate it. We're also reached out to the Parks Board, Keep Me Fairly Beautiful Committee, see if they can come out and help us. And so again, we'll be here at 8 o'clock, and then after we have a safety briefing and some breakfast items, and everybody gets their vest and all the PPEs, then we'll migrate over to the cleanup side. The other item I have is I want to let the council know that I will be having my back surgery this coming Friday, so in a couple of days. I'm going to be out of pocket next week. Hopefully I'll be back sometime the week of the 20th, but in the meantime, I've been meeting with staff, and we've got plans in place, so everything should continue to operate smoothly. Susan Greenwood is going to be taking care of a lot of my matters and issues that I take care of as city administrator. So you are leaving in good hands, and you guys will probably not even notice that I'm gone. So that's the objective here. So just wanted to make you aware of that. That's all I have there.
Public comment?
That's what we know.
Consent agenda. As matters of consent agenda, we consider to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. An item can be removed from the consent agenda by the city administrator, mayor, or any member of the city council, and will be considered after approval of the consent agenda. We have 3 items tonight. Approve the city council meeting minutes from March 16th, 2026. Approve the March 2026 financial report, and approve the second quarter fiscal year 25-26 investment report. Chance to review that. Get a motion from someone?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously. So we'll move into new business. All matters listed in new business will be discussed and considered separately. We'll start with A, receive, consider, and act on a resolution approving a development agreement with Impression Homes LLC for Pioneer, consisting of 113.789 acres in Smith County Survey, abstract number 74, with the GW Road Survey, abstract number 853, Wise County, located generally east of Pioneer Road and south of 407.
So Mayor, I'm requesting that we pull this item from the agenda because we are not ready, but I assure you we are going to be ready for April the 20th. Just so you'll know, what happened to us is as you can see, I've got two items here, A and B, one for the development agreement, one for the public hearing, for the PID, and then the actual adoption of the PID if you so desire. In talking to the attorneys, not Robin, but our bond counsel attorneys, they want me to break it up into 4 different items, which one of those items now is also going to include a resolution that you need to allow the New Fairview Mud to be able to sell water in our city limits, because if you recall, Pioneer Estates is going to be getting their water from the mud. And as part of that agreement, we're making sure that they're going to build their system to our standards, and we, the city, are not going to be responsible for any of the operational costs. That's all going to be the mud. And then at some point in the future, if a future city council decides they want to go ahead and activate that clause in that agreement that we have with the Fairview Meadows Mud, that after they have built all the infrastructure and issued all the bonds, or after 20 years, whichever comes first, the city can annex in the Fairview Meadows Mud into our city limits, but understand that we now are going to be responsible for the operation of the water, wastewater, and roads and drainage and everything else. So that's a discussion for a few years down the road. We don't have to have that tonight, but I wanted to make you aware as to what's going on. So this time for sure, we're ready to go. April 20th, we will have the discussion. You'll have the actual development agreement to review. You'll also have the terms of the PIG. We'll have the out of bond boundaries service agreement between the MUD and the developer of Pioneer Estates, and then we'll finish up the public hearing. Okay, so that's why we need to pull 8A, please.
So I will move with that to B. Conduct a public hearing to accept public comment and discuss the petition by Duncan Family Welfare Trust to the city of New Fairview, Texas, for determining the visibility of creating the Pioneer Estates Public Improvement District within the corporate limits of the city and consisting of 113.78 acres of land situated generally east of Pioneer Road.
Okay, so there, if you will open up the public hearing, please, it's later time.
Reopen the public hearing at 6:37.
So again, based on my comments earlier, as I've told you before, I do not want the council to consider and closing this public hearing until we had the development agreement, which was also, we were waiting for the agreement between the MUD and the developers in related to the water service. So what I'm asking the council to do is take whatever public comments are available tonight, but do not close the public hearing. Go ahead, and I believe it's in the motion here, if you will continue the public hearing to the April 20th meeting, and that should be the last time we need to have the public hearing, and at that time you can close it out, and then the next item will be your ability to take action on the actual creation of the PID. And I stand for any questions before you ask for any input from the public. Okay, that's all I have there.
Motion.
Got the public comments.
Oh, got any public comments?
In that case, I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing to the April 20th meeting.
I have a motion, do I have a second? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you, council.
We'll continue.
There's nothing, no, I got no closing.
We gotta do the.
So we'll move to C, receive, consider, and act on appointing and or removing members to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take this item. Mayor and council, as you're aware, we have a planning and zoning commission. There are 5 places on that commission, and we currently have a vacancy in place 1 due to the resignation recently of a commissioner. We did receive an application from Mr. David Klein, who lives on the Denton County side of our city. In fact, Mr. Klein is here in the audience. We gave him the application, right? They have it?
Yes, I did.
So you have in your packet somewhere the application that Mr. Klein submitted, I think along with the bio vita that he gave us as well. We do, as I mentioned, have place 1. The city secretary has verified that he is a resident and a registered voter, so he complies with the requirements to be able to be appointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So if you have any questions of me, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, if you have any questions of Mr. Klein, I'm sure he'll be happy to
sir.
Thank you, sir.
I'm very impressed with the quality of experience and people that we're getting, on the council and our boards and commissions. It's outstanding, and, I know the future looks good with the type of people that we have working for us and ensuring our future. So thank you for applying.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint David Clyde to the Planning and Zoning Commission, place one.
Motion, do I have a second?
I'll second. Elisa.
Alyssa.
Oh, okay. I thought it was covered.
She was just louder.
There you go. Louder but not first. I gotta get you a t-shirt.
All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, passes unanimously. Thank you. D, receive, consider, and act on appointing and removing members to the Parks and Recreation Board and Keep It Beautiful Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take this one again. So we currently have, as you know, a Parks Board, and they also serve as Keep It Beautiful Committee. We have the 5 places currently filled, but we also have the alternate for this board and committee that is vacant. And so we also received an application from Mr. Klein to be on the Parks Board. He's allowed to. It's not uncommon. We've had this happen before, but we've had a resident be on both planning and zoning and also on the Parks Board. And so again, you have his application, and if you so desire, you can appoint him to the alternate position. Keep in mind that the alternate means that if we don't have a quorum of 5 people, then not only is he able to comment during the meeting, but he's also able to vote on any items that are brought forth at that meeting. If, however, they have all 5 of the members there, then he's still able to participate and comment. It's just he's not able to vote because he's the alternate. And typically, you want that because we sometimes have problems making quorums with our boards and planning and zoning commission. So I'm so glad that we have this alternate for Parks Board. I stand for any questions.
There's no questions today. Have a motion.
I move to approve the appointment of David Klein to the Parks and Recreation Board and the Keep It Fairview Beautiful Committee to the alternate position.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Thank you. We got lots of free, well, you don't have a job.
So I've got a lot of time.
We will fill it.
If you don't mind, please contact us tomorrow. I want to make sure you get sworn in before Tuesday's meeting. Renee, yes, sir. Yeah, and she'll be here tomorrow as well as Friday. Perfect. So you just coordinate that with her. Thank you, sir.
We'll move to E, receive a report, hold discussion regarding the conversion of a part-time public works department position into a full-time.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take this one. So, Mayor and Council, I've given you some information in the agenda sheet. Currently, in the fiscal year budget for this year, we have 3.5 FTEs, or full-time equivalents, in the Public Works Department. You can see the table there that is actually in our budget book. And we actually are down, as you can see, a 0.5 FTE when we moved over that part-time from the Public Works over to the park. And so, unfortunately, our workload continues to increase as we continue to get new residents coming in and new demands being placed on us. So our workload continues to grow. I've got some data here that I asked the Public Works Director to compile for me. So as you can see, we report to you guys at the end of each month what the previous month's work was, either as it relates to Public Works or as it relates to facilities. So some years we do more work on Public Works, streets and drainage than we do on facilities. Other years it's the other way around. But as you can see, we are continuing to increase our workload. Some of our Public Works projects require a minimum of 3 people to be able to operate safely and efficiently. For example, when we're doing a crack sealing of our roads, you need someone actually in the truck that is pulling the crack sealing trailer. You need an employee that's actually doing the crack sealing with the wand, and then you need somebody to keep traffic off of them. So you usually have a follow-up vehicle. So at a minimum, you need 3 people when you're doing that type of operation. And we have several examples where that is the case. And it's kind of getting difficult for Public public works sometimes to come, be able to do some of these jobs because we'll have somebody out, somebody sick or training or is just not assigned to come in and work that day. And so it's starting to have an impact, negative impact to our operations. And so what I am asking the council to consider letting me do is going ahead and converting that 0.5 FTE into a 1 FTE. So instead of being 3.5, we'll have 4 in the Public Works Department. Under the financial considerations, as you can see here, I had the State Secretary run some numbers for me. It will be an increase for the benefits of $18,475 for an actual annual year. However, we are halfway through our year, so we only will have half of that we have to account for. And then the increase in hours from a part-time to a full-time is another $19,655, but again, we're only going to need half of that because we're halfway through the year. So when all is said and done, right now the current impact to the budget is approximately $19,066 to be able to bring one of our part-timers into the full-time role for Public Works. And so with that, I stand for any questions you might have.
So is that money already built into the budget, or is it something we're gonna have to add to for public works?
So, no, the money is not built into the budget because the budget was based on a 3.5 FTEs for that department. So we're gonna have to add that, but we'll do that with a budget amendment that we'll be bringing back to you guys, because we have some other amendments we have to do to our current budget, and we're working with our contract finance director, Can, which we think will be back maybe in a month's time, 2 months at the most. So probably about 2 months at the most, we're going to bring you a budget amendment of all the different things that we need to adjust. This would be one of them if the council approves this. We do have the money though in hand, just so you'll know, because as you can see from the financial reports, we're bringing in a lot more revenue than we were projecting, and right now we're lower on our expenditures than we were projecting to be at this time of the year.
Yeah, I guess that's more of I knew it wasn't budgeted in the budget because of the employees.
Yeah, so the impact is really going to be minimal to our fiscal year this year, and then of course we'll have time to work that into all the numbers we'll be crunching when we start having budget discussions with the council for the 06-07 budget year.
So will this just roll into a current employee, or will it be hiring in another?
Good question, thank you. So we have an employee right now, Salem, kind of a younger man. He's very interested in going full-time. He's doing great work for us. As a matter of fact, we're kind of working him on a full-time level now because we've got the work and we need him here, and he's got the time. And I have visited with him, and he's very interested. And so if the council approves, he is the one who I will give the offer to say we're going to move you from part-time to full-time, and then I'll connect him with Susan so he can fill all of his benefits paperwork. So yes, it's somebody we already have here employed with the city.
That's good, because that means you won't incur any more training.
Correct. No, nothing's going to change other than they'll be working 40-hour weeks now instead of 38.
Are these employees hourly or salary?
Sir?
Are these employees hourly?
Yes. So our employees, these employees are hourly.
Okay. So when you're talking about people calling out and things like that, those are hours that we're not paying them salary. That if they don't show up for work, then
They don't get paid. Right. And in fact, we have, what's the name of our time clock system that we have? I'm sorry? Time Clock Plus is the software that we implemented about a year ago, maybe? 6, 8 months ago? Okay. And yeah, so that allows the employees to clock in and show, when they're on duty. When they go to lunch, they clock out. When they come back, they clock back in, and at the end of the day, they clock out. And it's very effective because it merges with the system that we've got to do payroll, because Susan's the one that ultimately has to account, put all those hours together and figure out what the payroll is going to be for each employee.
And have we been incurring any overtime lately due to the workload?
So we have incurred some overtime, yes, but some of that overtime has also been incurred example, we just had the Easter egg hunt event. That's overtime that we're bringing in people on Saturday that come in and have to work on top of their 40-hour week. When we've got this cleanup coming up on Saturday for Keeping Fairly Beautiful, that's on top of what their work week is because, again, we have so much work that I can't really flex their hours at this point. The good news is we're still under budget as it relates to our overtime, both in the Parks Department and in the Public Works Department. So we monitor the overtime and code enforcement as well.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move to approve amending the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget to increase the number of FTEs in the Public Works Department from 3.5 to 4 and increase the department budget for the increase in salary and benefit costs.
Motion, do I have a second?
So, you said it first.
I'll second it.
She was first cut. She was first canonized. All those in favor say aye.
Hold on. I just have one more question. Sorry, let's see. All right,
You can make a comment after.
that's right.
All those in favor say aye. Those opposed?
Thank you, Council.
F, receive a report and hold discussion regarding the purchase of a code enforcement vehicle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take this one as well. So, Mayor and Council, as you're aware, this is the first fiscal year where we had a full-time code enforcement officer, or CEO, that was added to the code enforcement health department side of our operations. And this was done to continue to help us meet strategic goal number 1, protect the public, objective 1.2, which is improve code enforcement of the City Council strategic plan. Our CEO uses one of the 3 vehicles that we have in Public Works to be able to perform his duty. He does quite a bit of traveling and driving around the city because, again, it's code enforcement. You have to be out there patrolling the neighborhoods to make sure that there aren't any violations. And he's actually been able to find quite a few, like roofers out there roofing without a permit, or somebody illegally dumping something, and so, or tall grass and weeds, junk vehicles. So he's doing his job basically.
Building a fence.
Building a fence, right? But unfortunately, this sometimes causes problems for the Public Works Department because of the fact that they have projects that often require them to be able to have equipment. They've got full trailers with equipment on it, and they need the three trucks out there. So sometimes they're having to coordinate around it. Also, if the council recalls, on October of last year, the City Council approved an interlocal agreement with the City of Aurora for us to provide them code enforcement services. And so the code enforcement officer has been working an average of about 8 hours a week, driving to Aurora and patrolling their streets or doing what Aurora needs for code enforcement, which, if you turn the page to a table I put together there, we've been keeping track of all kinds of metrics. So we've kept track of the mileage that he is driving in Fairview. We keep track of the mileage he's driving in Aurora. I'm also now keeping track of the revenue we've generated from the fact that we have this island in Aurora. So as of the end of March, we have now brought in $7,125 that we had not anticipated that we were going to bring this fiscal year because of the ILA that the council entered into with Aurora. So that's just going to continue to increase. And in fact, now I'm talking with Isaac because Aurora now seems to think they're going to need more than 8 hours of this time. They're thinking they may end up needing 10 or 12 hours, which we're able to accommodate and we'll adjust accordingly to make sure that we're still obviously meeting our code enforcement needs here in Fairview. But the point being is he's going to generate more revenue for us, but that also means he's going to be needing that vehicle that many more hours to be able to conduct those functions. So, having said that, I asked staff to go out and get me some quotes for various types of vehicles. There is a spreadsheet that's attached to your. Why did this print out so small? Jeez, it's hard for me to read. Okay, I'm sorry. If you're having trouble reading this, I might be able to pull it up on the screen if I need to. But we were looking at.
I think everybody
you see the numbers in. So I asked staff to go ahead and get us quotes for our mid-size and full-size vehicles, new and used, and these were the quotes they were able to get back. But on top of the cost for the actual vehicle, we also have some add-ons to be able to convert the truck to our use. So for example, we need to have a toolbox, a first aid kit, we need to have the light bars on it, we have to have the 6 cones, a fire extinguisher, on and on and on. And so some of the trucks, we already have, for example, what do you call it? I call it a headache rack, and we also have a toolbox, but it doesn't fit all vehicles, so that's why each of the add-ons may vary from truck to truck. So while one truck may end up being cheaper to buy, by the time you put the add-ons, it actually ends up being more expensive than one that's more expensive to buy. What we did is we went ahead and ranked them from the least expensive to the most expensive. So as you can see there, right now, the least expensive, all in, that means striping it, putting it on everything on the truck that's needed, will be a GMC Sierra 2026 1500 4-wheel drive for $44,147. And it goes all the way up to as high as a Ford F-150 2026 model, 150 XL 4-wheel drive, and that ends up being $62,322. So I really think that we've reached the point where we need to get another vehicle. We're obviously generating some revenue from the activity that the code enforcement officer is doing for us through the contract that we have with Aurora. So we'll be able to recoup some of the costs for this truck. And we have the cash on hand, so I would recommend if we're going to buy the truck, we don't take out a loan, we just go ahead and cash fund it, because as of the end of March, as you saw in your report, we have over $1 million in our fund balance, which is where we would normally draw down. That's our rainy day fund. We would draw down for any type of one-time expenditures, and I think this would be an appropriate one-time expenditure to draw down from to make a purchase. So with that, I stand for any questions you might have.
A few questions.
Yes.
First, on the Aurora revenue, why is it variable from month to month?
Okay, so the reason you showed $0 in October is because we worked very little, but we ended up billing them in November. So the November dollar amount you see is for portions of October and November. We are working an average of 8-hour weeks. There's some weeks where he works less, and some weeks where he works more. It just depends on what the needs of Aurora and what his conversations are with the city administrator. So, like I say, he came to me the other day to say, hey, I talked to the city administrator and she's needing more hours of my time. So let's figure out what that's going to take so I can let her know how many more hours I can work. And so you're going to see in March it's what, 1,600, so April could end up being 1,800. Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. So it's the ILA, and I think I thought I put it here in the back. Yes, I did. So Aurora is paying $50 an hour of his time. So the more he works, the more we get. The less he works, the less we get. It's not a flat rate.
And then, can you help me understand the kind of work that requires us to need a pickup truck for code enforcement?
A pickup truck? Yes. So if you recall, one of his duties is to go and pick up any illegal dumping, right? And you've seen in my Friday memos photos where we find a mattress, we find furniture, we find a pile of tires, and so we need a truck to be able to remove that, put it in there, and then we either bring it back here until we're ready to take it to the dump, or if it's something that's just a bunch of wood debris, we put it in the burn pile until we're ready to have a burn. But a code enforcement officer really always should have a truck, number one, for his duties. Number two, if you remember, in the budget discussions I had with council was, our code enforcement officer, just like our parks employee, may be getting paid out of those departments. But when we have an emergency and it's all hands on deck, we have a bad rainstorm, we need to start putting out barricades because we have to have high water road closures, right? Or we need to put up sand
vehicles stay here at the office?
Yes, sir. So even though we have a take-home policy, we have not implemented, so all the trucks right now are staying here, with a few exceptions. There have been times where we know they're gonna need to swing by, like, they're gonna need to swing by, someplace in Decatur, to get something and bring it for us to be able to do a job that day. So there have been times when I've allowed them to go and take the truck home, so on your way in, you pick up the item, you bring it here, and we don't have a delay. If you come over here to pick up the truck just to drive all the way back, load it, and then we delay the start of our project. So that's few and far between.
Okay. And then how will this impact our insurance costs?
So when we have a new vehicle, just like all the stuff that we've added to the park, we have just recently had a conversation with TML to make sure that all that athletic equipment, the solar lights, the new water fountain, all of that is reported to TML so that it's claimed on our property insurance. So when we add a new vehicle, we're going to give that to TML, so that's also claimed on our vehicle insurance. Do we have any idea how much they might charge, or how much did they charge when we added this last truck as a premium? It's not that much.
But you pay a certain amount.
Yes, that's the charge.
It's burned up until you get.
Yeah, there will be an increase, but I would say the increase is going to be slight by adding this truck.
That's good. Our business, our insurance is.
Well, yeah, we get a cut rate, yeah, one, we're a city, two, our insurer is TML, so they really are set up to help small cities. So, yeah, we get very good rates from them.
And then my last question would be, since we have this outlay with Aurora, has there been any discussion if they would contribute toward this vehicle?
No, sir, we have not had any discussion if they could contribute. The discussions we've had with Aurora is that there is going to be a time for us to come back and look at this $50 rate and see if we need to adjust that. And that's when we would have that discussion, say, hey, we've got a new truck now, our costs have gone up, and so now the hourly rate needs to be X.
The reason why I ask is because when you look at the mileage, a fair amount of the mileage is in Aurora, and we're not, so just looking at depreciation of the vehicle, if a lot of the mileage is there, I would think that maybe we would ask them to potentially contribute towards that.
Right, and I'm having discussions, I didn't want to say yet, but I'm having discussions with the city administrator over at Aurora because they are interested, as is Paradise, in seeing if we might be able to help them with street maintenance. And so we're crunching numbers, because as I told you earlier, when you're doing street maintenance, it's typically a 3-man crew. So if you're doing crack sealing, that's 2 trucks, that's the crack sealing trailer, that's 3 employees, and you haven't started talking about the cubes, which is the actual materials that you're putting in the cracks of the street, right? So we need to come and crunch numbers, factor in gas, all the different soft costs as well, to come up with what that cost would be, so that I can, and then determine what are the actual road projects that they think they're going to want done, so that we're setting expectations with reality. If you're saying this is the road that you want done, we're going to go look at it, we're going to go tell you how long we think it's going to take, what it's going to cost, and that way you have a price point from here to here to do the repairs for that road. Because if that's something they're interested in, I want to be able to bring that into my budget discussions with the city council this summer to say, we think we have the capacity, we certainly have the equipment and the manpower and the skills to do it, and this is the type of revenue that we're going to be generating if we enter into this type of ILA with Aurora, same thing with Paradise. So there may be a possibility to have other discussions as well as vehicle cost recovery.
Okay. That's all my questions. I think I would like to see us have that discussion with them about contributing
Towards the purchase of the truck? Okay.
Thank you.
So we have 3 vehicles now for public works, right? 3
Yes, sir. We have 3 trucks.
trucks, right? So as part of the insurance cost, does it have to be in a secure location? If it's left overnight, like when they leave, it has to be, or can it just be left out? Does it matter?
No, sir, it doesn't matter. No. And in fact, if you, and you know this, a lot of cities that have law enforcement have a take-home policy where they actually allow their sworn personnel to take their vehicles home Some cities even allow you to take your vehicle home if you live outside the city limits. So Justin being one of them, I just found out they've got a couple of police officers that live over here close to Paradise. And so they are allowed to take their take-home vehicles home. But we don't have that set up in our city yet.
For 17 years of my career, I had to take home.
I had that too when I was a police officer.
Then you get to buy a bunch of cars though for a small force.
Yes.
You got 2 officers on duty and you've got 10 police cars, you know.
Yeah. You gotta do what makes sense for your size community, right?
I enjoyed the sharing.
Yeah.
Do you know which of these trucks gets the best gas mileage?
No, ma'am, I do not. That is one question I asked. Do you
Uh,
gentlemen know?
Ranger.
I said, I've never owned a Ford, so I don't know about Fords.
And the Sierra, because the Sierra that, I'm pretty sure the Sierra that he, because I've talked to him several times about it, is the 4-cylinder and not the.
Yes, it is.
So it's number 2.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're paying almost the same amount, why get a small truck when you might as well go for a full-size truck?
Just 8 miles a gallon versus 10 miles a gallon. As much mileage as he drives, that's can be significant, especially at $4 a gallon.
But the cost of the truck is the.
I know the difference in
What I mean though, in a smaller truck, the smaller truck is a small bed, which is small load, so if you gotta go 5 times for something you can do twice, you're not really saving gas.
If we're paying cash, is there any way to hackle those prices down a little bit?
We can try.
I mean, a lot of
We can
places.
always try.
Cash isn't usually a driver in the lower end prices anymore.
Yeah,
Because they
Yeah,
get a lot of
they actually make more money if you don't take
Yeah,
it.
because they get a lot of kickbacks from the finance companies.
Is four-wheel drive a necessity?
Yes, ma'am, I would say so, especially when we've had a heavy rain and there's a lot of mud in certain parts of our community that we sometimes have to get off onto.
It's before, when we first started talking about this and I was doing research on my own to make sure that kind of match it with the research. It is hard to find a fleet vehicle, what I consider fleet vehicle, wide steel wheels, vinyl floor mats. It's not full drive. Matter of fact, Transwoods did not have one, and neither did Huffines. Neither one of them had a 2-wheel drive fleet vehicle in there.
Yeah, I mean, I drive a truck, so I mean, I can get it. I'm just like trying to figure out, because like, you know, is the majority of that position is just driving.
Yes.
Driving. So I think looking at the economics of the wear and tear and then the gas and all of that, that's weighs heavily upon my mind. Because, you know, if he has a big load, then he can call someone on the crew to bring a second truck or, you know, but what are we doing day to day versus what are we doing once a month or once every other month? To save money in the budget. That's my train of thought.
Does it have to be new? Keep in mind too that, sometimes our trucks go down. So like, right now, I think we've got a public works truck that's got some work being done, so we're down to 2 trucks, not 3. And so there may be a time where we're gonna need to use the code enforcement truck to do public works time, and so there'll be time where he's gonna have to find time in front of the computer doing some of the research that he needs to do anyway when he's putting together notice of violation and stuff like that, doing research. And that way, public works is able to use the truck. We haven't even yet started talking about what our needs are gonna be when we start the water wastewater department operations. So really, even though we're calling this a code enforcement truck, keep in mind that our needs still are everybody does different jobs. There have been times I've had to pull him, and you know this from some of my prior memos, I've shown you that there's a reason why the stats are so low for code enforcement is because I pulled him, I think, for a week and a half when we were doing this ballistic resistant materials, right? We bulletproof the front of the municipal court offices here. Every single employee from Public Works, including code enforcement, including the parks guy, were all working on this project because we needed to get it done. It required all of us, and so that was his primary duty, and it was not doing code enforcement. So just know that I know we're talking about it being a code enforcement truck, but I always look at this as, no, this is going to be a city truck, and it's going to be used for whatever the city needs it to be. It just so happens that it's going to be maintained and operated and cost to the code enforcement even the old truck that is a 2006, how old is that truck? Betsy, 2005, 2008? Yeah, so even the 2008 truck, they've been taking care of that old gal pretty good now. She got new tires, and she gets a wash once a week.
Last time I saw it, it was looking pretty rough.
Was it?
Yeah, but I haven't seen it in a few months, so it's looking better. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're trying to, we've talked about that. Image is a lot sometimes, and so you want to make sure you're prepared, because particularly when our vehicles now are going to be driven in another community, right? Particularly.
Do you have a preference on Ford, GMC, or Dodge?
No, sir.
I think, Ford F-150 is the most robust of the group. You see the oil field, gas fields use a lot of Ford trucks. They seem to be a little able to take abuse and mileage better. I think that, considering the closeness of the cost, I think we need to stay with probably the, cheapest F-150, which is that 48861.
I mean, what about the Dodge? I mean, I don't know to be fact because I didn't do any research, but I think Dodge Ram seem to be more reliable as far as the vehicle than the Fords. I don't know about the F-150, but
The recent study of Dodge 1500 on fleet was the most expensive of the three competitors. That was my thinking first, all along, is we Dodge 1500 with a, tradesman package, because that's what they call their fleet, but no, it was a little bit higher from the research I had done.
I mean, I don't know the difference, but because when we've got new trucks at work, and we've gotten Dodges and Fords, and it seems like every couple of months the Fords are going in to get fixed, and these are like the 550, so I don't know what the difference is with the F-150s, but the Rams seem to be more reliable than the Fords. So to me, if you're going to have to repair it in a couple of months, it's not worth spending a little bit less money. So I don't know the reliability of the F-150 compared to the 1500, but I know the larger duty trucks the Rams seem to be way more reliable.
Well, can we just put a price point on it and then let, Joshua pick what works best for them?
That'll work for us, sir, yeah. If you'll give us, I believe that's the way the motion is stated, and not to exceed amount, and then we'll find what we think the best vehicle we can get that does not exceed your price point. Because remember, we also need to factor in the add-on costs to turn it into a
These
true
processes
vehicle.
include like tax and title and all that kind of stuff too.
It said it does not.
No, it does not. It's not. So, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes. So Joshua did tell me today that he reached out to James Wood, and for I think the Sierra, we were looking at the cheapest one. TTNL is going to be 1,900 and something. So just under 2,000. So if you don't mind, add 2,000 to whatever the number is here to cover TTNL. I would appreciate it.
So if we said like 50, that would give you like the option of the top five.
Yeah, so it would be an all-in cost of about 48,000, and then the 2,000 to cover TTNL.
Well, the problem is, at 50,000, now you're gonna automatically kick out the Dodge.
So you do 51,000.
Well, that's.
The Dodge is 56.
Oh.
56.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right.
So we need to take, that into consideration if you think that's the best fit for the city.
I mean, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
I have a couple more questions. So where are we currently getting maintenance done on the vehicles? Because I think that's a consideration on the brand as well. Where would we get maintenance done on these different brands?
So I guess it depends on what it is that is needed as far as maintenance. Obviously, if it's not under warranty, right, then we're gonna take it, sometimes we've taken it to, is that Les that has a shop down here? The shop in New Ferry, which is this one down here, we've taken it there, we've taken it home. At the corner of 287, yeah. But we've also taken it to Mr. White's place down here, the other one, by Take a Break. We've taken it there. Most recently, we took it up to Deb. If you remember, Deb used to be on our Parks Board and Planning and Zoning, and he owns the shop up in Bridgeport, because he gave us a very good rate for oil changes and tire rotations, and in fact, he gave us a better rate for installing the lights than the other place we were using, which was we shop it around, but we don't have a set place unless it's under warranty.
Pitchfork has been the cheapest on diesel, so it's had diesel oil changed.
Yeah, you might want to consider looking at, what's his name, the shop thing that he has up there. I'm trying to find out for you, but you can take your personal vehicle up there and, from what I understand, they give you a pretty good rate for oil changes and tire rotations and air filters and
It's a
stuff
fleet
like that.
maintenance, that's one of the specialized things for maintenance.
And that's-
And then my next question is, so kind of referencing back to our last agenda item, so we just approved to, increase to a 4th FTE for Public Works, right? So we have 3 pickups. And so this is gonna be a code enforcement vehicle that can be used by other people, but, so are we gonna see a request come forward for another pickup for the 4th FTE for Public Works soon?
I don't know yet what our needs are gonna be for the next fiscal year. We're just now starting those conversations internally to get ready for the discussions with you guys this summer. I will tell you that this is a precursor to the strategic planning retreat that we're gonna be having in May. We need to start talking about our water and wastewater operations because we are being pushed quickly now by Lennar. Do we have the capacity right now to do it? No, we do not. But we're trying to figure out what it's gonna take for us to get there and how we're gonna get there, and that's gonna be part of the discussion. So I don't wanna tell you, no, we're not gonna come back. It's not gonna have anything to do with that 4th FTE. It's gonna probably have more to do with what our water, wastewater operational needs are gonna be. And again, keep in mind, this is gonna be an all hands on deck situation. Just because you've got a code enforcement truck and you've got a public works truck, well, now we got a water issue we're gonna have to deal with, does not mean that we're not bringing those people and those trucks in to come and help.
Well, that was kind of maybe my point, was that, does it make sense for it to be more of a shared vehicle?
Well, they're already shared, but you've gotta house them somewhere. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make sure that we're putting the proper equipment and personnel in the departments that we have. And so right now, we have a parks department, we have a code enforcement department, we have a public works department. Sometime in the future, we're gonna have a water wastewater department. And so, because we have a code enforcement officer, he should have a vehicle, and that's the budget that it should be hitting. But again, the way we actually use it doesn't mean that it's just gonna be code enforcement.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Not so much a question, it's just if we do move forward with this, we're getting low on space for everything. Where are we planning on, can we designate a parking area for it so it's always in the same place, it's kind of out of the way? Because there's so much stuff everywhere, and it's gotten a lot better. I know this is a separate discussion, but it just makes things difficult to move around sometimes when everything is kind of just. So if we do this, we figure out an out of the way designated place for this to park on a day-to-day basis.
Right, so you're right, we are running against some space issues, even though we've got 13 acres here, that's our municipal complex. What I can tell you is gonna happen is the newer truck is gonna be now the one that's not gonna be inside the bay, because you want your newer truck protected in case we have it. But as far as where we park that older truck, these pictures out of the way, yes, we need to find a place where we're gonna start to put it, because as you're well aware, we got 24/7 traffic here because of EMS and because of fire. And even when we have 18-wheelers coming in to deliver materials to us, we want to make sure we're staying out of the way. So at some point, and again, we're going to have some of these discussions during the retreat that we're going to have for strategic planning. We have that acreage on the other side of the creek that we haven't even touched yet, that we may need to start looking at putting stuff over there, whether it's a laydown yard, whether it's putting Connex boxes, whether it's eventually building another facility. We're going to need to start having those discussions to figure out how we're going to continue to manage our operations on the land that we have and not negatively impact the mobility around here.
In the meantime, couldn't they just park in court parking?
Ma'am?
In the meantime, couldn't they just park the older trucks in court parking?
Yeah, they can. And so we don't have to park it over here. We can park it over here. That's not a problem. Yeah, so space we have. We just got to figure out where it makes sense. The other thing too is we also like to make sure that we keep our equipment out of sight, out of mind, so that we're not tempting somebody that want to come in and either vandalize or steal.
Right.
try to identify who that was and get them to come in and pay for that repair cost. So we do have a much better security system than we had before. It's just a matter of coordinating it.
Right, and I understand that the older truck on the outside, just what I meant is that you try to designate and like make parking areas where they're parked in, instead of like, you know, because sometimes you come through there, there'll be two trucks parked on the side right here, there's something in the front and the back, and just all over, and sometimes it makes it difficult. And it doesn't, I just don't think it looks very good just to kind of randomly have things everywhere. So if we could designate and make parking spaces for them to go to, even during the day they come in, they pull into those spots instead of parking on the side through this little driveway right here, or, you know, those type of things.
Sure. Yes, sir. We can do that.
Mayor, in your research, did you see if any of these brands have a longer warranty for fleet customers?
I did not look at it.
Because I've seen that
I
some
was looking
folks
at it all,
that-
I was looking at dollars, is all I was looking at.
Well, and the reason I asked is I was thinking dollars too, but it's clear that other council people are interested in certain brands or giving them kind of the levity to make their own decision. But to me, I think the warranty period is important too.
Yeah, I did not look at warranties, I just looked at, and I also was thinking the way you were, I was originally thinking, some kind of little van or a car, because it was cheap.
Yeah.
You can get a Ford fleet van pretty cheap, and, I'm not really running up and down the neighborhoods in a van, but that was my first thought, because you could get one of those little bitty vans pretty reasonable, then it made sense that.
We got those coat off.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Luke go officer and have his SO following him around.
Yeah.
Because he looks strange, suspicious driving up the neighborhoods in a white van.
Sure, you're a city leader.
I don't really care about brands necessarily. I just want something that's going to be reasonably priced and more reliable. Like, I wouldn't mind a little bit more of a price if you're going to have more reliability, except longer warranty, or something you're not going to have to get fixed every 6 months or 4 months or whatever the deal is.
I'm a Chevrolet guy originally, but I've always worked for 35 years now, working for John Deere dealerships, and every John Deere dealer I've ever worked for is on Ford car dealerships also, so we've always gone Fords. Not that I really care for them, but that's just what we've always had.
I was wondering why, I mean, there's a GMC, there's no Chevys.
No, GMC is what James Woods for fleet, they put out for their fleet is GMC.
But too, at these mileages, I mean, we're talking, I mean, and this could increase, but I mean, we're not even at 1,000 miles a month here, so whatever we pick should last for a while.
Yeah, I hope so. Sure. And it doesn't matter, it's not like it's personal, I can tell you, once it says fleet and it's got city on it, it has no resale. I don't care if it's tomorrow or 5 years from now, it's still worth nothing. So, it'll never be traded in, it'll have to be auctioned off, so, that's just the fleet game, they have no resale.
So I think the question isn't whether we're going to, it's at what price point is everyone comfortable with.
Well, for me, where I'm at is I still would like to see us have the conversation with Aurora to see if they would contribute before.
Well, just to be clear, I don't think Aurora is going to want to contribute any specific dollar amount. I think Aurora would be amenable to having a conversation as to what's going to be the increase in the hourly rate from 50 to 60 to help cover a portion of it. But if you're expecting Aurora to say, yeah, we'll give you guys $5,000 for this purchase, that's not going to happen. I can assure you that, especially with the finances situation that Aurora is dealing with right now.
Yeah, you'd just be, you'd have to figure it in your hourly rate.
Yeah, we have to figure it into the hourly.
One thing you would not want them contributing 10% to that truck or 20% because you wouldn't want them to somehow have control of 10 to 20%.
I think you may be thinking back when Boyd helped us out with the security here, but we had a court fund that put funds automatically in there for the security of the court system.
And it was in the agreement, sir, if you recall, that specific request was put in the agreement because they agreed that yes, it would help fund this since we were their court as well.
Oh, well, so I'm hesitant to approach anyone that we're doing a contract type of interlocal agreement with
but again, we plan to have discussions to see if we have to adjust that $50
I think
hour.
that's
And that's where you would factor it in. So that's the way we want it structured. It's just like the ILA that we have with Wise County SO. They just told me that now it's gonna go from 90,000 to, what did I tell you, 99,000? So that's gonna be the rate now. We're just gonna split it with Paradise. So just know that that's the way ILAs are typically structured, is you're working into whatever that rate is.
As I remember right, when we did Aurora ILA, we structured that to where we would cover our cost plus.
Yes.
So that we always would be taking that into consideration. If we have newer vehicles, higher costs, then we will adjust accordingly.
I think if you added another $10 onto the hourly, $10 or $15, eventually they'll.
Start that up.
Come out. I don't know, trying to be on to me, but also because I would also like to add in the future a fuel surcharge. So we're like right today, maybe $5.59 a gallon.
Yeah, for those of you that use diesel gas, right?
Joshua, we're talking about the code enforcement vehicle.
Yes, sir.
Do you have anything to add that you think may be pertinent to us? We've talked about the price point, different brands, whatnot.
Yeah, I don't currently think, in this case, I'm not gonna be a brand snob, as far as that goes. I think the GMC is gonna serve us well for what its intent's gonna be. Obviously, when it's not being used strictly as a code enforcement vehicle, it is there to any other services the city may need to help public works, to help parks, you know, anything that is needed for. I do think in the long run, it's gonna free us up quite a bit and allow for the team to be a little bit more fluid across the board.
Just to clarify, you told me the TTNL was just under 2,000.
That's correct, sir.
And that was the price for the GMC we were looking at?
That's correct, sir.
Yeah,
Yes.
so that was right.
Were any of the Ford quotes locally?
Yes, the highest one was local, that was Tarleton. The other one was the company up near your alma mater. That's actually who provides the vehicles for Providence Village where I live. So I called that young man, and they obviously send it to us at no cost. That's included in the price, but they beat Carleton by $10,000, and they're in Amarillo.
Whiteface?
Huh?
Was it Whiteface?
Yes.
Whiteface is probably the largest.
Fleet.
Ford
Fleet
in
Ford,
the
yes.
state of Texas. Hereford, Texas. That's where we get the name Whiteface. Yeah, they're.
Was that F-150?
They did an F-150 and a Ranger both. So the two lower cost F-150, I believe they were in like around 51 or 52 without looking at the paperwork for an F-150 and 39, somewhere around there for Ranger. Yeah, so the GMC, that was, the 2026 Ranger was white face, the 38,000 was white face, then the used was also white face, and the $49,000 F-150, because he called me telling me how thrilled he was that he was able to go under 50,000. Apparently that's a tough price point to meet. And then of course, the Ram Express 1500 was local, that shot in Kirk off of Highway 380 in Prosper. And then the Ford F-150 for $57,000, that was going to be Carl Hunt.
But you're good with the GMC?
I don't see why it would be. I mean, it's got the I-Force motor in there. I haven't heard a negative. I'm good friends with the gentleman by the name of Aaron. The show called and the car follows that, and I called him on all of the trucks, and I couldn't get a negative reliability impact on any of the vehicles with the way they were equipped.
So if we approve 46,000, you should be able to get a vehicle.
Correct. That gets the vehicle, just
we don't have anything like
Clear.
Yeah, so you said it's 2,000, but if it's 2,400, then we're gonna, then the might.
Yeah, no, you can, yeah.
But these solid quotes or?
Yes, Kelvin, I did not just pull these out of thin air.
I mean, everything's changing daily. it seems like.
Correct, and some of the people that did let me know, hey, next month, incentives and all that change. However, the James Wood and the Whiteface guy were both like, no, we will honor this. This is, I mean, if anything, it may go down.
So should we pad this a little bit?
Again, yeah, just give me a not to exceed number, we're gonna find something.
Yeah, I always like a not to exceed. I always like there to be a little safety cushion there because you just never know. People can try to be as honorable as you can be, but this market is a little bit strange.
I mean, if the quotes are still valid, they're gonna honor them, I don't know why we need to pad the numbers.
Well, I think what you say is not all the quotes might be honored, but some of them will.
The truck's still gonna run into the other stuff, could be not. Change
To add on.
cameras and.
But usually Raymond Woods is pretty honorable.
I was thinking 46,000, and that's plus TTL.
Okay.
Yeah, cause there's at least 3 vehicles on here, you can get the 46.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Any other questions? Not, could I get a motion?
Everybody's looking at
I would just say that, like, for me, like, moving forward with it, like, I always want to do whatever's the most cost effective. I know that we're putting a little bit extra in there, but to me, that doesn't mean get the more expensive one. To me, that means proceed with whatever the cheapest option is. So
That's why we're doing the 46, cause he said he's good with the cheapest,
Okay.
the GMC.
Okay.
But it just means up to 46.
Right.
But if you can spend less, try to spend as little.
Always, always.
You go in there with $46,000 and say, hey.
Yeah, no. I pick up the phone tomorrow, I'm like, hey, remember that boat we said, we're ready to buy it at that price.
Or, could you come down a little bit?
And the TTL may change because all these guys always get confused because we're government. So I think that's a safety number. I think if anything, it may go down, but not up. Because it's always difficult to calculate our tax rate over anybody else.
You want to make that motion, Lisa?
I move to approve authorizing the city administrator to execute the contract to purchase a vehicle for the code enforcement / health department not to exceed 46,000 and draw down the necessary funds from the fund. Plus TT&L and draw down the necessary funds from the fund balance for this purchase.
What's the second?
Second. Teacher.
All those in favor say aye. Those opposed?
And you weren't even the loudest.
I know, right?
All right.
You heard the documents, so you gotta make sure you have it.
Thank you, council, for that, we appreciate it.
Next is receive, consider, and act on an interlocal agreement with the city of Wood for law enforcement services. And with that, we could go to executive session if you so.
Right, if at some point you decide you want to have an executive session discussion, the city attorney is on the line, and we can move into executive session. Okay, right, that's fine, I've got to go through some stuff here before. I don't know that I need it, but, yeah, so, but just wanted you to be aware, if you feel we need to have a conversation with the city attorney, then we can do so in executive session. So anyway, as it relates to this item, if you remember, on, September of 23, the city council approved an interlocal agreement with the city of Boyd for law enforcement services, where they were providing us the law enforcement service. That ILA was for an initial term of 3 years, commencing October 1, 2023, and ending September 20th of this year. It could also be extended for an additional 3 years, twice, if we so desire, both parties mutually consented to it. On October 1st, 2023, Boyd did begun providing the new Fairview with an average of about 15 hours of law enforcement service, which included routine patrol of neighborhoods, businesses. Mainly, we were wanting them to do traffic enforcement in our community, as well as the enforcement of our city ordinances, since we don't have our own police department, and we have an opinion from our attorney that the Wise County Sheriff's department is not legally allowed to enforce city ordinances. So the only way we do it is have our own police department or contract with another city to do this. They did make a very positive impact in our community and attended many of our city-sponsored community events. However, beginning in October of 25, staff began to notice a decrease in activity from the Boyd Police Department in our community. Boyd PD has also stopped participating in our city-sponsored events, and in fact, the last event they were at was back in August of 2025. I contacted the Boyd Police Chief about this, and the reasoning that I got from him was not one that I agree with on why the activity had decreased. On April 2nd of this year, I attended a meeting that I had requested with the Boyd City Manager and the Boyd Police Chief. There were also others present at that meeting, and at that meeting it became obvious to me that the new police chief in Boyd is not interested in continuing to provide law enforcement services to New Fairview. I gave them a written notice that I already had prepared that effective immediately. They are to reduce their hours of operation in our city from the 15 to down to 5 hours per week. And in anticipation of Boyd possibly not wanting to continue to provide this service, I had met with the Rome City Administrator and the Police Chief, as well as I've met with the Justin City Manager and the Police Chief to explore their interest and desire to provide law enforcement services to New Fairview, very similar to what we were getting from Boyd. And both meetings went very well. They're both interested in working out terms with us, and in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring 2 different ILAs, hopefully, for the City Council to consider, because I think nothing restricts us from having just one ILA with one city for law enforcement. We can have as many as we want, as long as we're able to obviously afford it and it's going to meet our needs. So, also I wanted you to know that on April the 7th, of 2025, the council approved the ILA with Paradise for us to provide municipal court service to them. Well, as part of our ability to provide municipal court service to the city of Paradise, we need to have a shared law enforcement, which we currently do, because not only do we have an ILA with the Boyd for law enforcement, but Paradise has an ILA with Boyd for law enforcement. If we do not renew the Boyd ILA, or Paradise does not renew it, then we're not able to provide service to them for municipal court. However, if we enter into an ILA with either Rome or Justin, and the city administrator from Paradise was at those meetings with me, both those meetings, and both cities feel that they could enter into an ILA with Paradise for law enforcement services, then regardless of what happens with the Boyd ILA for law enforcement, we will also have now a mutual law enforcement service through either Rome or Justin, or both, depending on what Paradise decides they want to do. So having said that, I am here to have a discussion to get direction from the council to determine whether I should send a notice to the city of Boyd requesting that we extend the law enforcement ILA when it is set to expire in September 20th of 2026, or do I send a notice of non-renewal to Boyd for the ILA and let it go ahead and expire September 20th of 2026?
So, when would we need to have a new ILA in place then with either Justin or?
Before September 20th of 2026. So we have a little bit of time.
Paradise would need to do that too, right?
Yes, sir. Like I said, Paradise is interested in entering in, because Paradise is only asking for 1 hour wait. So, for example, the conversation that we had with Rome here recently, Rome was telling us they think they can provide 15 hours, no more than 15 hours additional, because remember, Rome is also providing law enforcement service to the city of Aurora. scope. We basically need you to enforce our traffic laws and enforce our city ordinances when we need you to come out here and do that. We still have Wise County SO on the Wise County side, and we've got Denton County SO on the Denton County side that is handling our criminal cases, right? So Paradise said, well, we only want 1 hour a week. And I told Rome, okay, well, he takes 1 hour a week, you say 15 is your max, we can handle the other 14, we're good. They're good, Paradise is good. Similar type of conversation with Justin. We haven't actually talked set hours yet, but they understand what we're looking for, they understand what Paradise is looking for, and they feel they can meet the need.
And do we feel that the costs would be similar to what we're paying now?
So that is what I don't know as of yet. I've shared with them, and I've shared the cost that we currently are paying, and they are doing their due diligence now. They're crunching their numbers, and they'll let me know what they think that cost is going to be. So obviously, I told them if it's going to be way outside of this price point, I'll still bring it to council, and then we'll have that discussion and determine if we're willing to pay that or not. So I don't know yet what that's going to be, but I hope to know here very soon. In fact, Rome informed me that they are taking this discussion to their council on April the 26th, I think she said. Justin is not ready yet. We still have some other discussions we need to have, because I'm also talking to Justin about some other ILAs that I want to bring to the city council here in the near future for us to talk about. So we've been working on those more so than this one. But I'm confident we'll be able to get something worked out here pretty soon. So my hope will be that come May, June at the latest, I will be able to bring you guys the terms of an ILA with either Rome, Justin, or both. Okay?
I mean, I know you said you had a conversation with them about this, and you didn't feel like they wanted to continue providing this police service. So, if for some reason we wanted to move forward with renewing this, are they going to even want to renew on their side, or are they going to cancel as well?
I get the sense that they are probably going to want to cancel as well, but canceling triggers a different clause than just letting it not renew. Because I believe the clause that says if you're going to cancel, you're supposed to give a 1 year's notice to cancel. So really, the best bet right now is to just go ahead.
That's what I meant, not renewing it.
Yes.
They're going to
So
try.
I think they're also, at least the police chief anyway, I think is interested in just not renewing it.
So even if we wanted to renew it, they're probably not going to.
I was thinking we should just do a non-renewal
Right.
and hopefully have something else in place by September.
We will. I just still can't tell you if that's going to be Rome or Justin yet, but I'll know here maybe within a month's time which one it might end up being.
Well, even if we don't, it's not the end of the world.
Right. Well, the only thing that really puts Paradise in a bind because they don't have the capacity nor the skill set to take their court back. They don't want to contract with Boyd, even though Boyd has apparently extended that offer to let them run their municipal court. And they don't, I don't think, want to go to any other city to do it. They're very happy with the way we're operating our court. So they really want to do everything they can to stay with us. And I'm trying to do everything we can. So as I told Rome, I said, look, if you can only give me 3 or 4 hours and you give them 1, I really need the ILA more than anything else to help protect. And then I'll work with Justin on increasing hours. Plus, we still have the part-time deputy that we're sharing with Paradise, right? And we haven't even begun to explore conversations about maybe doing that with Denton County SO sometime here in the future as we continue to grow on the Denton County side. So we have all kinds of opportunities, folks. We just have not even begun to have all those discussions yet. So right now, my priority is to first understand what the council wants to do with this ILA, because I've got to give Boyd some sort of notice. And then I'll be bringing back to you in the future an ILA, regardless of what happens here. I'll be bringing back to you an ILA with either Rome, Justin, or both for you all to consider.
I mean, honestly, I think we should just non-renewal because it seems like you never see them around until you talk to them. And all of a sudden, they're there for a few days and you don't see them.
Well, because even if they did renew, they're not showing up to any, they're not upholding what they're supposed
The
to do.
spirit of the agreement, yes, ma'am.
discussion. We had a discussion today, and if he gets back from surgery, we're gonna try to set up a meeting.
Well,
Two of us, the city judge and Randall about that, so.
good.
That is in the works. Hopefully,
We haven't had that discussion in a long time. I know we discussed last meeting with getting the attic storage out of those areas. I think that's a big step, but that brought to mind, what else can we do to make it even better? I'm sure Pete knows, just to bring up about the parking, I think that's an excellent point, but what other points are that we need to explore to make it a better experience?
Yes, sir. We'll work on that and bring it to a future meeting.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask if you had an opportunity to, in any of your discussions with Justin or if y'all been able to do any research on that dark sky initiative.
So we did, and they did pass an ordinance that's kind of similar, but not a true dark sky. And so what we're doing is we're looking at it, and we will bring it forward in the future for city council to discuss and see if that's something we want to consider adopting here as well. But yes, I did get it from Justin, so thank you for telling me about that.
Thank you very much.
The only announcements I have is we have, Keep Me Fair Beautiful Pickup Saturday.
Yes, sir.
Please, anybody that wants to come join and pick up trash on the side of the road, it will be an experience you'll never forget.
Don't scare them.
27 northbound, so just a little past where the exit comes on the service road up to the stop sign.
It's a lot of fun picking up bathroom waste that gets thrown in Walmart bags on the side of the road.
It's,
I'll have my grandkid, and he's too young to take
Oh, yes, do not play that.
we are having, I had 2 or 3 things I didn't write down, they're on my mind, and now my mind has nothing.
Something regarding the Wise County Mayor's meeting?
Yeah, right, we had West County Mayor's meeting tonight.
The gala.
Yeah, we're at Gala Saturday also.
Or Saturday, yes.
Evening, the Wise County Chamber of Commerce.
What about February Meadows having their HOA meeting?
Yeah, February Meadows is having a HOA meeting here.
Monday.
They're actually doing it twice this month because he reserved it again.
Okay.
He wanted it beforehand, and then he actually, I already reserved it. Let me go look at his calendar.
Will you send that out in an email with those dates to council so that?
I can.
But yes, they're using this room, yes, sir.
That's, and I think that's a step forward. Because before they've had it at third place in Dallas, and that's not very convenient for the homeowners. So I'm hoping they'll have a good turnout and maybe it won't get ugly and it won't be pitchforks, but,
That'll be a big turnout.
yes. So, mayor's meeting was tonight, we had missed. I will follow up with Joshua, he attended, with that, and, did you stay for the whole thing?
The last 10 minutes.
Okay, so we'll follow up, we will also participation in the, Wise County 250, celebration of July 4th. I don't know what our commitment will be, but we will have, we'll try to schedule something as to be a part of that Wise County 250 celebration.
Is that on July 4th?
I don't know that quite yet, but I think so.
Maybe like their new flagpole and
Yes, to be like that. And, that's it. September, and I'll go ahead and throw a post out for Aurora, 9/11. It's not gonna be on 9/11, it's because 9/11 is Friday this year, and they didn't figure they could get a crowd on Friday. this Sunday at, I believe, 5 o'clock. But it's on everybody's page in Los Angeles County's page. And that's all I have. So do I have a motion to adjourn from the regular session? But not the work session, regular session.
We got that.
Yes.
I'm going to adjourn the regular session.
Second?
Hey, Robin, can you hear us? Yes, sir. Can you hear us?
Can hear you now.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? I've got my volume cranked up all the way.
Well, just in case there are any other questions, but yeah, no, maybe.
No disrespect, but I'm just thinking we can save some money.
We can't hear you, but you can hear us, right?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm sorry you can't hear me. So my audio is cranked up all the way and my microphone shows that it's working.
Work session. Yeah, 8:05.
Yes, sir.
Roll call.
Ricky Jones.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
We have we'll receive a report of discussion regarding the revisions to the sign ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to ask our senior planner, Stephen Cook, with Dunaway, to give the staff a presentation on this. If you recall, we already had 2 work session discussions with the city council back on January 5th and January the 20th to get your thoughts and your input, and also answer any questions you have regarding why we needed to make updates to the sign ordinance. So we have taken that information, and Stephen has put together some revised regulations for our sign ordinance. He's also worked with myself and our city attorney to put together a draft city ordinance, which is attached to your packet as well. And you should have a copy of this PowerPoint presentation in your packet as well, so you can follow along if you want. So I'm going to turn over to Stephen now so we can get into the meat of what this new sign ordinance is going to entail. And if there aren't any major revisions that are required, talking to Stephen and talking to Robin, we can bring you back the actual ordinance at the next council meeting, so April the 20th, for you to go ahead and consider and adopt, and we will not have a new sign ordinance, correct? Yes, sir. Okay. So with that, I'm turning over to Stephen. Go ahead, Stephen.
That didn't bother you, did it?
Oh, no. I got it right here. I've also got it here too. So that's all right. So first off, I want to thank your city attorney for really working very diligent with me on making sure that we keep the ordinance in line with federal guidelines, as well as word choices, as well as making sure that the ordinance is defensible, and so that we keep you guys safe and we keep the city in good regulation. So I really appreciate all the effort that she's helped in getting this ordinance put together. We're going to just go and start right into the different kinds of signs. I didn't put every single sign into this presentation. If there's a sign that I don't cover and you have a question about, please ask me and we'll bring it up. I've also got the ordinance itself on the presentation that we could take a look at it. The basic structure is, as we talked about, that when we go and talk about signs, we're going to talk about each individual sign. There's a definition, and if it's about a particular kind of sign, we're going to talk about the time. When does it get permitted? If it requires a permit, we're going to talk about the place, how it's set onto the property or the building, or how it's going to be placed onto the property, and then the manner, size it is, setback distances, those kinds of things, so that it's going to be clear for, because 9 times out of 10, if you're going to put in a new commercial sign or a residential subdivision sign, you're going to have a professional sign company who's going to be doing that and permitting it on behalf of the business or subdivision, and so they're going to want to find, okay, this is the signs that I want to get, this is how I'm going to put them together. The first big one is billboards. I heard that we did not want to have additional billboards. We do have some in the city, so we can't just go ahead and just say no new billboards. So what we did is we kind of really limited the ability of how new billboards can go into the city. We limited it to just within the M zoning district. We've limited it to a distance from
cannot be greater than 500 feet from the right-of-way of US 287. It has to be at least 25-foot setback from the right-of-way of 287. And if you're familiar with your zoning ordinance, most of the 287 is fronted on by a commercial zoning district. There is parts of it where the M zoning district does approach when the railroad does approach to 287. So there are some abilities to put that, but there's going to be much more separation from residential, separation from your additional commercial. There is distances also in there that they cannot be closer than 250 feet from another billboard. And the sign face itself is limited to 1,000 square feet, and the height is limited to 35 feet.
35 feet total or 35 feet in base?
35 feet in total height. That's from the base ground elevation to the very top of the sign. The biggest part of it is also is that a lot of times setbacks are put to the pole. We are not doing that. We are putting it from a setback distance from the leading edge of the sign. So all of the signs that we talk about tonight, we're talking about that leading edge of the sign. So if the sign kind of is wider than it is the pole, we're measuring from the leading edge. So that way we're not going to have overhang, we're not going to get into right of way. We want to keep those signs separate from our public right.
There's no way to say no new billboards at all. We have to can't just get rid of them completely.
Right, and because again they're kind of a protected use, and we want to make sure that there's an opportunity, but it's a very small opportunity. They're going to have to really work at it. I actually have my GIS planner. She said we've got some very slim slivers of area that new signs can be put in. Now, what does this mean for our old signs? Well, the old signs would be typically grandfathered in, and they will have to be maintained. You cannot increase the nonconformity of those signs, meaning you can't shift them. They have to be, stay in their static position, and so that if they ever become greater than 50% damaged, if the tornado comes through and wipes it out, it's wiped out, and they have to come back and be in compliance with your sign ordinance. Okay. All right. So the next one we're going to talk about is electronic variable message signs. So this is basically anything that's going to have LEDs, going to be something that's going to be able to provide changeable sign messages. What we really don't want to have is something that's going to be animated, something that's going to be, a visual distraction from that. So what we do is we put it into the signs that they can be a part of a larger sign. So you might have an LED sign that's going to be part of a pole sign, or going to be part of a multi-tenant sign, or going to be part of a monument sign, but we limit the percentage of the total sign face of how much they can be in, and we limit the illumination. One of the big things that we talked about in our other sessions was how do we dim them down at night so they're not just bright flashing. So we've got some limitations on the luminosity of the sign. So not just how bright we see it, but the actual heat temperature of the sign. And we talked about it last time, they're nits. And so we've got the nit measurement in which that can be measured. And again, what I understand is that sign companies can understand that, and that will be something that they can limit. Now, we also have in the ordinance where the illumination can be done either mechanically or it can be done electronically. So you either have a dimmer switch that is based on a photocell or something like that that automatically dims when there's less light around, or that you can have a software that says, okay, from this time to this time, dusk is on, that you need to dim the light down.
How does this play into digital billboards?
Into digital billboards, it doesn't really, again, the luminosity and all that kind of stuff, and it can't flash, and that can be a static image on that, but digital billboards, typically you can have the entirety of the sign be a digital billboard, and it's not specified in there. The one that we wanted to specify is the monument signs, where you don't want to have this really down at the ground level where you're having at eye level with your traffic.
So the few billboards that we may get could be digital.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Can we limit this to districts as well, or should we?
We can absolutely put it into districts, but the thing is that you don't have a lot of districts. So you have commercial, you have manufacturing, and so that's the only non-residential zoning districts you have. If you limit it to districts, then it can be the difficulty with that is that a lot of the new schools that are being built typically have one of these signs, and I know at least the 3 elementary schools that are within walking distance of my house all have these kinds of signs because they constantly updating parents and stuff like this. If we limit, and they're located usually in single-family zoning districts. So do we want to limit that against school districts? That's just the kind of thing that comes.
So keep in mind, churches are moving towards that.
Well, that's
And even entry marker or entry areas to subdivisions are starting to use.
That's actually my complaint, and like, I love church, but I don't love light in a dark night. Like, obviously that's something I'm passionate about. And these church signs, I've seen them in Justin specifically near Homeland. There's one that's very bright in what I consider to be a residential area. And to me, I would like to prohibit these kind of bright signs in residential areas.
Okay.
I agree, my eyes do not like bright when it's dark outside.
Because even schools and things like that, like if they maybe even not just dim them, just have them cut off after a certain time, even if they're allowed.
That's a great point too.
Because schools are open. I mean, who cares at 10 o'clock at night? The school Easter event's going to be tomorrow. Like,
Unless you're the parent that works nights and that feels when you drop past the school, and that's when you see the notices.
I mean, you get other notices from the school if they're doing events and see the sign. Especially,
And again, it just depends on what zoning district. So if we do limit it to a particular zoning district, schools tend to be within residential zoning.
well, if we allow it, can we just have it cut off instead of just dim at a certain time?
Or does that take away the?
Well, again, the thing is that if it is in a commercial, it's
Well, if we say in a residential area, if there's one of these signs, it has to shut off at.
that. Let me see if I can formulate some language to that point.
We talked about getting one of those signs here at City Hall at some point in the future also.
Yes, we have.
Yes.
And,
All right, so the direction I'm hearing. So the direction I'm hearing is that we want to allow the commercial manufacturing zoning districts with the kind of the conditions that we have already built. That if it comes into a residentially zoned area, then it needs to have a full cutoff at dusk.
I wouldn't say dusk, because that's 4:30 in the afternoon.
Again, the thing is we got to, if we're cutting it off, if we're saying it's shutting down, we have to give them time.
I say you can't do that. I mean, we could do dusk to dawn, because in the wintertime, they wouldn't be out long enough to.
You could say 8 o'clock, and just make it 8 o'clock as the time.
Or do it like the noise, whatever the noise ordinance is.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to say dusk, you can just say a specific time, it has to be shut down.
Like the noise, that's why.
Okay.
I mean,
Because it's 1 a.m.
No, it's 10.
Could, if we were to prohibit them, could a school come and get a variance for that?
Variances are typically something that, because they can't do it because of a physical limitation, usually you don't have a variance for something like that. There is,
Or would it be part of like some kind of agreement or development?
so we do have the ability to have, and we'll talk about that also, is the Unified Sign Development Plan. So you can have any kind of sign as long as you as the city council agree to it. So it's basically coming up with a plan development for signs.
And what does that do to you when you're not here, and somebody says, I don't care if you want to do dark or not, just have it bright all the time. I don't like that.
Well, that to me is why, like I said, like I'd rather prohibit them in a residential area now, and then later if somebody wants to come forth as part of a development agreement or something, then they could request that kind of sign for school or something.
But that could be tomorrow. The day after we do this, they could do a development agreement and get it.
If we approve it. I just do not like
again, you know, I don't think that there is any legal standards for that. There isn't, you know, that we can create a regulation for that. You know, yeah, I don't see anything that we could have a problem with that.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, when the council requests information like that, we get charged for your time of looking that information up, is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
So we need to be careful what we ask them to do. 'Cause
Well, that makes sense, but if we want something done, I think it's important not to, you know, if we're needing some information or something that we legitimately want to do, I don't think we need to limit ourselves because, well, we don't want to look into this, we don't want to spend the money for it. I think we need to do something that makes sense for everyone.
I know, but one person wants this, the other wants that, you know, it adds up. So it's supposed to be aware that when we request information, that that's not free information.
Yeah, and so like I'm open to hear y'all's opinion, so if y'all are in disagreement, then speak up and we'll tell them not to.
I'm not in disagreement.
I'm completely on board with them being dimmer. I'm completely on board with them not being flashing or really aggressive animation. But I think that for schools, churches, and other things in residential, I think that having them on all night is an important point of communication to the community that may not be a 9 to 5.
I leave my house every morning somewhere between 5 and 5:30, so.
Same. And I get home most nights between 9 and 10. So, I mean, there's.
Which is fine until you live next door to it.
I think that's why you're saying in the residential neighborhoods, because if you do have a house nearby, that light's gonna be right in your window.
The truck stops in mine now, it's way over there, because it doesn't dim. And I hope for a tornado someday, so it knocks it down, so I can build it back to follow new standards.
I mean, I can see Texas Motor Speedway.
I can see there.
I don't want a tornado to hit that, because then it's probably coming towards me.
Yeah, I can see the house from my house,
So you understand.
but that's totally different.
I mean, I agree with you that these in residential neighborhoods are annoying. Like you driving through some of the at night, these churches have signs that are so bright that it blinds you when you drive by. It's like, does it really need to be that bright?
Well, and I think that's why we have we're putting dimmers in there.
Yeah, I mean, if they can be dimmed enough where they're not shining in somebody's window, then I guess we just have to see what the verbiage can be.
Yeah, I am all down with dimming. Like, I'm good with that.
I've got the dimming language up right now, that's under, subpoint A there, and, shall have, automatic dimming control by photocell hardware via software settings in order to bring the lighting level at night into compliance with the following. Signs that are illuminated at night may not exceed a maximum luminance level of 750 nits, regardless of the method of illumination. And that means that can be either LEDs internally lit, can be something from externally lit, from the ground, from the up. So the intent of all signs that they got to be dimmed down.
So do you have a comparison of what 750 nits is?
That's what I was doing.
I don't, but it's the taken from a national standard sign ordinance to kind of keep
I
things.
don't know how bright that is.
Okay, look.
I guess I could have Googled it also.
So,
1 nit is 3.4 lumens.
750 is Wilson Tude.
So it's like 3,000.
It's pretty bright, sounds bright.
It does sound bright, but on here, this demonstration does not look very bright.
Well, yeah, that's really hard to tell in a picture on the screen.
Exactly.
How bright is it?
Oh, I see.
I like the 400 nits better,
Right?
but
so that's,
So it is for.
my,
Yeah, the news one.
my AI summary says average TVs typically range from 200 to 500 nits for standard viewing. High models can reach 1,000 nits or more for HDR content.
And then it also says smartphones and tablets on brightness is 2,000.
Ah, okay. Cause I always have my phone.
Oh, as bright as it can be, so I can see it.
Well, I have the price.
Is that different with
So it's dark.
So it'll be about the same as your phone.
Which can also blind you if it's.
Yeah, you're in a car and have it, you're in your car and you turn it on and it next breath.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate if I'm driving and somebody sitting next to me turns on their phone and I'm like, whoa. But I guess I get it, it's not. This, if I open this up in pitch darkness, you'll see it if you're here with me, but it's not gonna be shining into your house if I'm standing outside.
Yeah, but your show's also not 20 feet wide.
Fair enough.
It's obvious we're not experts in this, so
Yeah.
is 750, is that a norm for dimming?
That was what the typical standard ordinance had. And so that's why I went with that particular one. And this ordinance was one that the National Planning Organization had been using as a kind of template for trying to control lighting.
Do we know how many nits we are at during the, I decided it's during the daytime.
I don't have that information. Mayor, I'm really good at telling you no, not telling you no, but not telling you I don't know. And so, sir, I would have to look that up.
That look on your face was like,
I was just trying to get the contrast between high and low.
I'm pretty sure they're at 1,000.
You know, council member, I learned a long time ago not to make stuff up in front of council. So.
but your face showed that you were a little dumbfounded.
The line says on here that outdoor LED signs typically range from 5 to 8,000.
So that's dimming down quite a bit.
That's the
That is dimming it down quite a bit. If nothing else, I've learned a lot while being on this council.
So
I guess we need clarification, council. Are you wanting us to go and research shut off time for signs in residential zoned areas or not?
I think we're splits.
We are kind of
I
split.
was gonna spend money for that information.
I'd be more interested to see if we could do maybe 500 nits in the 750. Because what I see is outdoor light LEDs typically require 1,000, 10,000 to combat direct sunlight and ensure visibility, and then in the evenings it could be 400 to 12. So to me, like if we can do like 5, then that should bring it down to where the light level and the glare level shouldn't be as offensive or aggressive.
But you
Well,
can
still-
still see.
You still see it, it's still able to be on.
I hate having things that are unenforceable.
I was just about to say that, because to me, like, if we do this and I'm agreeing and saying, well, don't turn them off, because if they're dim, then it's fine. But how are we realistically, like, a church or a school has a sign and I think, man, that's bright. How are we gonna go out there and test that?
Obviously,
You have a good detector out there.
give them that, no, there is.
We'll do some nitpicking.
There is a detector, because we had one city that there's a detector you can purchase, so now we're gonna have to pay somebody overtime to go out there. We have to buy that detector, so that we have something, so they go out there, they can test, and then come back and let them know they're compliant. My concern would be, I'm guessing though, the reason why that's the standard is 750, and I don't know, it's because software doesn't allow you to go any lower than that,
I don't know the answer.
or hardware doesn't allow you to go any lower than that. So we may come up with some arbitrary number, but physically, you're not gonna be able to reach that number because of some limitations with either software or hardware.
Or you can just turn it off. I mean, that's the other thing, because again, a lot of times, especially with the photo cell, it's gonna be a binary system, and so it'll be just on or off. But you can have photo cells that kind of can go to a lower setting, but
I mean, I would still think it's better just to say in residential areas between at 6 a.m., I mean,
And that's kind of in alignment with what my point was with, you know, adjusting the auto zones. Sign was so bright, and they started turning theirs off at night after they closed up business. But
There's a lot of like restaurants and stuff like that. That's how I know that they're closed, right? Because their lights are out on the outside. But if you're in a we're talking about residential neighborhoods, I think we can have theirs shut off. But the ones on 407 can still stay lit.
right, I mean, we're just talking residential. If it's commercial, that's different.
Right.
I agree.
407 is mostly residential. Is it not?
It is.
Well,
Well, there's a lot of ag,
Yeah.
yes, there is some residential, yes.
But again, that limitation on that zoning is we would also eliminate the ability to have a commercial business. So we would change that, and then they would have the
Just say,
ability to have the
you
sign.
can see 407.
So, what I have right now is that it sounds like we've kind of reached the point where if we look at, the same limitation that we've got right now at 750, then, with a residential zone, it shuts off at 10 p.m. with the ability to be turned back on at 6 a.m., which was what the council member suggested. Are we okay with that?
Joshua, do you remember what the lumens are on the lights that we installed at the park?
7,800 lumens.
78. So one nit, what did I say, one nit was 3.4 lumens.
Well, and is a church and a school considered residential still?
It'll be in a residential.
It's that zoning
They have the ability to be in a residential zone.
Okay,
Yes.
so there's no way.
So those lights will be 2,300 nits. They're 7,800 lumens.
Tents are only used, for the little baby LED cells that you use like television or one of those signs.
I'm just trying to get an idea. of
Right.
So,
We don't know how bright 750 nits is. That's our problem.
I mean, just so you know, that at 7,800 lumens, that's designed to spread 65 feet wide in pretty much every direction at a distance of up to 9 meters, which is close to 30 feet in the air.
so that's not in reality.
It really isn't as bright as it sounds. 7,800 sounds way more dramatic than it really is.
So in answer to your question, I'm not in agreement with that.
Okay.
I think just the gaming at 750 is about the same. I kicked the patent.
we'll be, I'm sure, looking at this again in the future. And we'll learn more going forward. We can always modify and revise this.
But I think it's important to try to get it right now as much as we can, because once we have to revise it, it's because there's already a load of these signs around, and you realize that, hey, I should have done it this way. Well, some of that's too late. So I don't know if I want to necessarily wait to find out if it's going to be wrong. I think I want to go with what I believe to be right now.
I agree with that as well, but what do you know is right? I mean, I trusted in paying a professional to give us an opinion on this ordinance. And second,
Oh,
I'm guessing,
I trust you as well. I'm not saying that at all, but I don't think he's really kind of giving us direction on where he thinks we want to go, really. He's just kind of putting it together and kind of going with the standard, right? And
Correct. And again, this is your ordinance, and if you feel like we haven't met what you want to see, then let's make the modifications now.
Okay, and then this also here says an average sign in the southwest, which was Florida, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and Southern California. The average outdoor all-purpose LED sign is 6,500 to 8,000 nits at daytime.
I mean, daytime it could be as much as it wants. I mean, who cares?
Yeah. Well, so can we see how everybody feels and make a decision and move on?
Yeah.
I mean, I would like for it to cut off
You only six, I already work at six, so I would never see a sign.
I mean, you're like, you see the signs that are in your neighborhood, how many times are you gonna drive through someone else's neighborhood and look at their signs? Right, but then at 4 in the morning,
No, not
or midnight?
after 6 in the afternoon.
Well, yeah, but it's 10 p.m.
Yeah.
6 a.m.
I had a professor at A&M that, he would go to Walmart at 2 o'clock in the morning. We could still go to Walmart at 2 o'clock in the morning. And he'd say,
It's good old days.
yeah, and he'd tell me, he said that, it was really odd because you go and see there and there's a guy buying a car battery and a thing of cottage cheese. And we'd always kind of say, well, Andy, what are you doing there at 2 o'clock in the morning? That kind of thing. So it was kind of thing. So,
I used to be a checker at Walmart, and just seeing some of the things that people bring up to the register, you're like, how does this all go together? Like,
there's a lot of things you see at 2 o'clock in the morning. So, all right. So maybe we'd see a gorilla. So the thing is that inflatable device signs are something that is going to be a static inflatable. This is kind of usually done for grand openings, to kind of have some visualization. There's a lot of companies that do and rent these. We've saw a lot of these in Euless. What we got tired of them was they put them in parking spaces, they put them on top of buildings, they didn't anchor them down very well. And so in the regulations, we got rid of and prohibited a lot of the things. Remember, we talked about it the last time. This guy is prohibited, so anything that doesn't move. So the gorilla's got to be static. He's not going to be able to move, jump around, do anything like that. But he's going to be able to have a sign and be able to be done in a special event type of thing on a temporary basis. But it has to be located on the ground. Has to be located not in a parking space or a fire lane. Has to be anchored securely, and then they can only be done for a very, very specific time. Usually they have like a grand opening is about 2 weeks, and so you can come in for a permit, you get it 2 weeks, and then it's got to go away. And then you can do that maybe 3 times a year.
Permitted, put the note down, add that to our fee schedule.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And these are just commercial, right? Like somebody wants to blow up Santa in their front yard, they don't have to purchase.
This is absolutely commercial because Santa's a holiday decoration. Santa is not a sign.
Gotcha.
my concern with this is it's so windy around here all the time.
Well, that's why they have to go.
I don't want to look outside my house and see a
I'm gonna get rid of my front yard.
Honestly, the wind does tear those up though, because like our blow up stand on wind and take it back.
Those are like 13 times thicker.
Oh, okay.
They're like solid block.
I can't even stand what the.
You didn't make that better.
Yeah, the ones that we can afford to hang the wind.
Yeah, I've got it around too.
I mean, Santa could fly over my house, that gorilla could not.
Sometime I'll have to tell you the purple gorilla story. All right. Monument signs. This is one of our typical signs. This is something that is going to be mostly your non-residential areas. Maximum area of the monument sign is limited to 60 square feet. We talked about it last time that 8 feet tends to be too large and it looks like a giant tombstone. So we're going to limit it to 6 feet in height at 60 square feet. And then it's got to be set 15 feet from the property line. So it's not going to sit there and be located in such where it's going to become a visual interference to driving. Obviously, when it's near an intersection, it's got to be set outside of your sight visibility triangles. Even if you're approaching to the drive, you're going to be able to see that oncoming traffic because that sign's going to be set back from the property line by 15 feet. So it's not going to be anywhere close to encroaching into your sight visibility.
You say property line, you don't mean right of way.
I mean the property line. So it may be meeting it to the right of way, but it has to be the property line.
Can they be in the right of way?
They cannot be in the right of way.
So the property line would be, and the road would be on the other side, so they have to be 15 feet from that line.
So well inside the property.
Unless, like me, my property line's the center of the street.
Oh, like I said, they don't have.
Yeah, he has one in his yard.
sign means you have to actually read it. So we're calling it a monument sign in a residential district. So what this does is it allows signs that are going to be kind of in gradient size based off of the type of road type that it's going to be adjacent to. So you look at the subdivision, Settlers Glen, you see that is a subdivision monument sign in a residential district. So what this would do is, again, all of these are going to be smaller than that typical monument sign of 60 square feet. These are down to the largest one on the highway is 50 square feet. This would be just for the sign itself. If you build additional monument or structures or walls or something like that, this is just coming down to the sign face itself. Okay?
And is the lighting on these subject to the dimming policy as well?
All lighting and illumination is subject to being able to, it doesn't increase over time at night.
Thank you.
Okay. We also talked last time about multi-panel pylon signs, where you would have a different tenants on the different kinds of signs. We've decided that we did not want these on local streets. If it was it, so we've eliminated that on local streets. These would only be done on minor or major arterials or highways. You have the ability of a 20-foot in a minor arterial up to 40 feet on a highway. And again, the difference between this and say a billboard is that the sign faces themselves are smaller than a billboard, which can be up to 1,000 square feet. And these also typically will have architectural elements that might have sweeps or other kinds of things like that. So that additional 5 feet in height allows for a little bit more architectural sense than just a plain rectangle.
For clarification, highway would be 287?
Yeah.
407 would be major?
Major artery, yes, sir.
So, like what would South Carolina Road, it would be a major or a minor?
That would also be a major artery because it connects all the way through.
Designated right now under our CIP plan as a major.
So what falls under a minor?
No, that's not kind of minor road.
No.
Well, minor would be a minor artery.
Yeah, probably Pioneer, Graham.
As it is, it'd be minor since there's no,
Sir?
so Graham would be a minor right now with no,
I don't know, I'm guessing it might be, I'd have to look at what the dimensions are.
But it is also in how it's utilized because what it does is arterials are getting you from one side of the community to the other and gathering, subdivisions together. Pioneer absolutely serves that.
Pioneer, I thought we were talking about Graham.
Graham would be more of a collector. Because
Right
Graham,
now,
well,
Graham expands.
Graham dead ends. So it's because it's a dead end, it doesn't go across the community and connect into others. Graham is definitely a collector. Okay. Pole signs, these are individual pole signs. You might have a smaller type sign that electronic message board would be a part of that. Again, these are the types of areas on that. We can also look at, again, based on commercial development. If you have commercial and industrial development, again, Graham is a great example of this, where it's got a lot of industrial zoning on it and would be able to have the ability, but it would be limited to 15 feet in height.
So this one was like the pilot sign out there, correct? Or no? Okay.
Yes.
I shall make sure.
Yeah, long pole.
But again, with that extra height, you get a smaller sign face than you would for like a billboard. Billboard's going to be limited height to 35 feet. The pilot sign would be at 50 feet, but they have a smaller sign face.
And it's in the illumination of it regulated also.
I'm sorry,
The
Mayor.
illumination on it, like a pilot sign out there, will be regulated in the future, even though it's not LED flash, sign.
Right. We have an illumination session. I'll need to double check on the illumination, but I've got it up distance the Bucky sign as the moon.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe we just need to allow any digital billboards only on the Denton County side of our city. Let's start that conversation. Let's go.
This is not a typical sign that you see in a lot of places, but as we get more commercial development, the projecting sign is something that is perpendicular to the typical face of the wall. We want to make sure that all projecting signs do not enter our right of way, and we also make sure that they have significant ground clearance. So there's a sidewalk underneath, so it's 9 feet above the sidewalk, and we want to make sure that they can be seen, but they do not become interference.
So people can hit their heads on it.
50 square foot, that's the size of the sign?
Only have 15 feet. So it would have to Clapper Street. So obviously the higher they go, the bigger the sign.
I'm trying to picture.
I guess I'm thinking of the ones that are like in shopping centers and not just flags, they're just like 2 foot by 4
Right, or it might be the projecting sign might be more vertically oriented, so it might only project out 3 feet, but it could be 9-10 feet tall.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so wall signs. So your wall sign is your typical sign that you put onto to the face of the building. What we're looking at in a wall sign is that we want to be able to limit the size of the sign based on the leased space or the building itself. Okay, so you got a retail strip center. The sign is measured based on the leased space width. Okay, so you have ability to have 75% of the wall length, and if the building height is 0 to 20, the maximum height of the sign is 4. So that's a really easy calculation to make. So the sign company can say, okay, well, what it does is that it limits the sign from dominating the entirety of the space, and it limits it to a nice little sign band for each of those leased spaces. Now, we get Target comes in. So Target requires, they usually have 5 signs. They have the logo, they've got, it says Target, they've also got, we're going to have the pharmacy, we're going to have all the little signs on that. So because Target typically has a much higher plate height and also has a much wider frontage, then you have a greater number of signs that are allowed, but they also have to have a smaller width on it. So then you have the ability to have more signs, but they can't dominate the entire width band of the entire building.
On building height, we have that defined somehow to where it's the actual height and not like or does the artificial portions count, or how is that made?
It is
Parapet wall, like the parapet wall in front.
no, it's at the plate. So you might have a false parapet, that's not counted.
Okay.
So it's at the plate height of the building. That way it's an even it's implemented evenly per building. So if you've got a multi-story building, you may have the ability to have more signage.
So even if it's a 2-story building, they can.
You could have a 2-story, you can have a taller sign. It's basically, but it becomes, if you have a taller building, you have a taller sign, you have a more limited width of the building that you can have. Again, we're trying to keep it in kind of proportion to the building face. We don't want the sign to dominate the entirety of the visual space of the building. So as the building gets tall, the sign shrinks a little bit in width. And again, we're talking about maximums. Okay?
I think you missed those cousins here, we spell it with a K.
And there's no O, it's just KU.
All right. Well, I mean, because all the palm trees that are.
Right. the wrong Community Fairview.
I mean, you could plan the farm.
Yeah, they got rapid every winter. All right. Roof signs are another that we talked about. These are roof signs where they do project above the structure itself, but it cannot. Top of the roof sign cannot be extended higher than the roof peak. It is a peak roof on a flat roof mount. The maximum sign area for the roof sign shall be limited to 15% of the exterior wall elevation over which the roof sign is oriented. There are cities that completely eliminate roof signs also, so we can certainly prohibit this sign as well. These are not roof signs. You have it on the canopy, if it's on the mansard elevation, or if it's on a eave like that. These are considered wall signs and would have to come in compliance with your wall sign ordinance. So the difference is on top of the roof, projecting above the roof.
I'm not a fan of those.
And the roof signs?
We can certainly prohibit these.
Man, I'm okay with that. Usually those are pretty hard anyway.
He's so worried about how bright they are. I just don't like them because they're ugly.
So, just as the biggest user of roof signs right now is Babes.
So like this, right?
Used to be Stuckies. Used to be Stuckies.
Is that, what is that?
That's a roof sign.
So, have y'all seen the higher grounds coffee sign?
No.
And Justin Higher Grounds has a roof sign.
Oh, yeah,
that
I've
says
seen
coffee.
that, yeah.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of these type of signs.
I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with that, I just don't want, but if Bates comes to town, we make an exception. Let's not make sure that's clear.
We're second eleven.
When Bates comes to town, all right, we can go to that.
Sounds like a song we
We'll
do.
go ahead and write that in.
Except for babes. No roof signs except for babes.
I don't think 7-Eleven has roof signs anymore. I think they're wall signs.
They are, for the most part, yes, sir.
I mean, I could probably take or leave these, but I'm not a fan of them.
I mean, we don't like them. Especially if they would get rid of them.
Didn't want Bates or Stuckey, so. get rid of it.
I mean, hardly anyone uses these signs anymore. I don't think I've ever seen, besides that one right there, I don't think I've seen them.
Except for that one coffee house in Justin.
And the people that are using them are limited because of the architecture of the building that they're moving into. So if you're moving into a place that doesn't have the frontage space to put the signage, that is your option.
But what place around here,
I think here we do.
the brand new construction?
Yeah,
probably big.
there's no buildings that they can purchase here.
That's not bad, that's on roof, because they convert old buildings.
No,
Most of the time.
North Richland Hills.
But there's nowhere really in, like you said, there's nowhere in the city right now that you'd be able to put any commercial building like this in. Or
So
you
if
can,
they wanted to come, they'd have to build their
Right.
place, and they can
Right,
go
right,
to
right.
the other specs, yeah.
Unless we're gonna put a restaurant in the Dollar General.
but even they have a wall sign.
They do have a wall sign. And they turn theirs off at night, most of the time.
Yeah, unless they forget.
Except for that one time, they turned it off, and then they got broken into.
Yeah. And then driven through the wall.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing the kind of majority is to go ahead and eliminate roof signs. All right.
Yeah, that reminds me of 70s.
Mayor, I guess the last Stuckey's I knew that was open was the one that was just north of Waco. That was the last one that I saw that was in operation.
Yes, I was alive in the 70s.
Oh,
Whoever said that.
Oh,
This always reminds me of that Seinfeld episode where Frank is sitting there and took a big sign.
Oh, yeah.
So, political signs, they can be located at a polling site as per the state election code. That means they have to be 100 feet from the front door of the polling space. No sign permit is required. They can be placed on private property with private property owner's permission. They cannot be placed within 10 feet of street pavement located on any public property, with the exception of the polling place, or within a public easement or right-of-way. They need to be removed within 7 calendar days after the completion of the election, and the polling place signs must be removed within 24 hours after the polls close. State signs no greater than 2 foot by 3 foot at the polling location, others up to 8 feet in height and no greater than 36 square feet.
We don't have anything like that now, right?
Correct.
Because there was 4x8s here.
Oh, yes, it was.
And our favorite hog is still has a 2264. His signs are still there.
You're talking about a van.
Yes.
We're doing a sweep this week, just so you know. We got the one for food
It's
sites.
nice, you can't hardly see them now, but they're still there.
I'll put his right under
I like that graphic, Stephen.
This is one that Robin shared with me. So
Very
this way-
clear.
This way we can understand this. John, I would highly suggest if this ordinance is approved, then you can take this graphic and the language and you put it into a little folder so that you have
So that
so
we'll make
many
sure the candidates
files
know.
for candidacy, they have that as their part of their
Absolutely.
handouts.
This is also why a lot of people don't know their culverts.
Right.
I hate that. They're like, it's not mine, why should I know it? I know mine.
I go the other side of my sidewalk, you know, it's not mine.
All right. What kind of signs can you not do? We don't want any signs that emit odor, sound, or smoke, or other kind of particulates. Cloud buster balloons, ones that are on long chains. They're helium filled. They're so you can see them from 2 miles away. Advertising real estate or whatever it is. Yeah. Oh, they have one of those. So those are out. We're not gonna allow those. Blimps or other kind of air devices. Feather flags. Those are the ones that you stick into the ground. They have the kind of angle out like that, and everybody puts them right out in the street. And you can only read them on one side.
For the house percent.
Right. So those signs, we're getting rid of those. Obviously, we want to make sure that people understand that graffiti is not allowed in the community. Merchandise as signage. What this means is that we don't want to have putting out all of your stuff, and then this is basically serving as your sign. What the intent of this is that if you got a tire changing place, putting all your tires out and sitting up, you got 3 tires down, 1 tire sitting up on it like that. We don't want that. So your merchandise is not a sign.
So if we pass this, I know we're not voting on it tonight, but when we pass this, who's gonna tell Rick White to remove his sign?
No, this is going forward.
Right. We're not affecting the existing
He's
sign.
got all dancing.
Oh. Did you do that again? Since you know him so well. We have a code enforcement officer.
Yeah.
We got this.
Before we even start talking about it, now those are the kinds of things that what we just did the experience in especially on new and developing commercial corridors can really become a clutter. And what we're trying to do is have an aesthetic, try to have things organized so that you still have the right to advertise your business, right to advertise your product, but let's keep it so that we're not overwhelming our community and overwhelming our visibility.
So specify, is this commercial or residential or both?
These are the signs that are prohibited as signs. So if you have a holiday, anywhere. If you have a holiday decoration, we're not touching your holiday decorations.
Probably more like, I was thinking more like, it's a boy or.
Those are handled under. There's a whole definition under temporary signage. of stuff, and those were allowed without a permit.
I've seen businesses in other cities that get around the sign ordinances by parking a truck out there with a sign.
So we have a definition for those in the ordinance.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, is that covered as a
Moving sign.
moving sign or pole sign?
A moving sign is the sign actually moves.
Because I call it the Frenchie sign. Frenchie was the bane of my existence when I was over code enforcement in Denton, because he's got this
But
old
the
van,
problem with
and he
Frenchie
would like to go park in shopping centers.
is he's got
I've
a
seen those bands.
following. You do how to get
They're
a
always
following.
conveniently placed so they're facing the roadway. And, I tried to work with his off-premise signs, but I had a city attorney there would fight me on it, and I couldn't do anything about it. The other one that's a concern is, I haven't seen it here in New Fairview, but we've got it going on in Denver. Or vehicles that have basically a flat face and it's lit up at night.
Yes.
And so it's just a vehicle with a sign on it, and it's lit up, and they're just driving around town, especially on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights when there's a lot of traffic out. They're just driving around, Bates Chicken or whatever is having a sale, or, come to such and such hookah lounge and whatever. There was no way that we could regulate those.
I don't know if it's Keller or Westlake, but up that direction, there was all lower monument signs for all commercial. There wasn't anything on poles or anything. And they had a big moving truck out there with a big sign on it. I assume they move all the time there at that parking lot. And I thought, that was uglier than anything.
Exactly. So are you saying we have a way to address these vehicles that are signs for all intents and purposes?
Yes.
Self-storage is real bad about it, with a moving van, rent a storage and use this van for free.
But that's a merchandise sign, because if you're renting the truck, it's actually merchandise, so that's.
So- This is the way we've addressed it in Euless, and your attorney had looked at this. So it's a vehicle sign attached to any vehicle, truck, car, bus, trailer, boat, recreational vehicle, motorcycle, any other vehicle. Vehicle signs shall exclude bumper stickers and state required registration and inspection stickers. Vehicle signs are allowed 24 hours a day, each and every day. But the vehicle signs are permitted provided that the primary purpose of the vehicle is not for the display of the sign. It means if it's a moving van, then it has to be a moving van. The signs are painted upon or applied directly to an integral part of the vehicle. That means it's not a sign that's sitting in the back truck, in the bed. The vehicle is operable, currently registered and licensed to operate on public streets and actively used in the daily function of the business to which the sign relates. The vehicle is not used as a static display nor utilized as storage, shelter, or distribution points for commercial products or services for the public. So that means you don't. So that way you don't pull your tractor trailer up and you just park your trailer on the front of your building and then that's your sign.
Denton has one of those too, it's a big old
Yep.
truck that just, you can tell it's a truck that doesn't work. But
Right.
it has their logo and stuff on it.
So everything has to be commercial, has to be licensed and has to be able to move.
So I don't think, so that doesn't seem strong enough to me that if somebody outside of a Mexican restaurant wanted to put, paint tamales on the side of a van and move it around, they can do that, right?
Right. But the thing is that that's the ability for us to at least have some ability to control. That means that what this doesn't allow is they get a 54 Ford, they park it up on a ramp and they lock it, and then that's where it stays and that's your sign. That's not allowed.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it says anything.
They also use it for catering.
That one, yeah, they actually probably use that one for catering.
Well, yeah, I understand we're not gonna be able to write everything out.
Right. This, I can honestly tell you, in Euless, we had the problem with the static signs on vehicles, but once we had this ordinance in and code compliance started talking to those drivers, they stopped coming because they don't really want the hassle. They're going to go and go somewhere else. The other thing is that we want to make make sure that this is vague enough so that we don't, you know, start harping on our regular businesses that have just their sign on, you know, their name of their business on the side of their truck. So this is kind of written to kind of fit in between those two.
I think it's a good thing, 'cause, you know, like you said, with the truck with the big giant sign in the back, you can't have that. And I mean, a lot of,
But
You're a temporary van, this is kind of a
they put
temporary
on
van.
screen on the side because they use it for delivery and stuff. You know, it's a modified use, and yeah, it could be parked in the front, and it could be ugly, but we can't touch that because that's more of a vehicle than it is an actual sign. Like I said, we're not gonna be able to capture everything, we're just trying to do our best to capture.
I mean, I know what I'm advertising, but I mean, we actually do some of that here with all the code enforcement trucks and public works, they have the signs on the side.
Yeah.
But we're not selling anything.
They're not advertising, but I'm just saying, it's,
That's what I'm saying, so we gotta be reasonable sometimes in our enforcement, knowing that, you know, there are businesses that have modified reasons to have signage on the side of their vehicle.
I think that permanently affixed decal is different than a temporary banner that you're putting on.
Sure,
a vehicle
absolutely.
in a parking lot.
Or like you said, you just put a sign in the back of your pickup truck and strap it down and drive around, no, that's a sign in a vehicle, it's not part of the.
But the sign on the vehicle was highlighted in there, it's not, that's not allowed, it has to be.
Correct.
So again, when we start talking about portable signs, this is as if you got a sign that's on a, you know, changeable message board, that's on a small, you know, wheeled trailer that you can pull back behind, and you leave it on the side of the road, and you might have an arrow pointing or something like that. We prohibited those portable signs. Okay?
They are very
Right. So we don't want to have any blinking or strobe lights, no signs that block public access. We can't have any imitation of government signs. A lot of times, companies will try to, you know, imitate a traffic sign of some sort. Obstruction of a traffic signal. No painting on streets. The attorney was a little bit concerned that we're talking about this, the way the language is you know, excessive painting on, you know, if you, what about I want to paint my street number on my curb? Well, yeah, you can paint your street number, but we're not talking about. Well, but the way the language is it talks about all the way through the curb because that's in the public right of way. So if you actually have a curb and you want to have your street number, you can paint that. But a lot of times I've seen in a lot of places where they'll start painting all the way along the curb and they'll put flags and all kind of stuff like this. I think that's something that needs to be maintained and retained by the community itself. We don't need to be art projects all along public streets. So, unless it is the city itself that is doing the art project. So, all right.
Quick question.
Yeah.
What about directional signage? Because we're not there yet, but we might be pretty soon, like you see in cities like, even like Justin, you see that they've got directional signage for homes for sale, Bloomfield this way, you know.
So those are.
Development over here, oh, by the way, City Hall is this direction.
Okay, so talking about that as a wayfinding sign,
Right.
that is a city-owned wayfinding sign.
Yes.
So city-owned wayfinding signs are going to be pylon signs, and so the pylon signs have to be permitted and they have to be 15 per. You know, you don't want
So
their.
we follow the pylon regulations.
Right.
Okay, just want to make sure, because that is something that we may want to look at doing in the future as we start to get more subdivisions being built. Instead of having a bunch of signs all throughout, you know,
So,
illegal signs, especially right.
Do you really want? I'm just asking this. Do you really want a public wayfinding sign to have private direction to subdivisions?
So, I mean, there are benefits to doing that because that then eliminates these builders as well as developers from putting signs all up and down roadways, right?
Right.
You now have it just on this sign. And it's a way for the city to generate some revenue to help pay for whatever the cost is, but you're also using it obviously to use it as directional signage for City Hall is this way, the library is that way, the fire department's this way, right?
So the best ones that I've seen, Fort Worth has that particular program and they license through. We looked at it and it was to license. That we ended up not doing it because we didn't have the kind of development at the time that really kind of warranted the kiosk signs coming forward. I would recommend that we keep those off of your right of way and keep them, you can be adjacent to the right of way, but, keep them off right of way, but you have to get the permission of the property owner to put them on. But I would encourage those unless they are a completely city, operated sign.
Yeah, like what we've got it down.
Right, and then those directional city signs, then you put them in as in your right of way. So I think it just for liability's sake, let's keep them out of the right of way if you're going to have private entities on it.
Yeah, they're in the right of way. Well, Lake Dallas has them in the right of way. I mean, a lot of cities have them in the right of way. They use that as a revenue generator, but also to provide directional and to keep the rest of the right of ways clear from all these bandit signs that pop up.
All right, let's talk about the Unified Development Sign Plan. So basically, let's think about this as a PD. We've got a major development that's coming forward. Let's even talk about Ranchland. Ranchland is coming forward with they're going to have multiple signs throughout the entirety of the development, but they want to have something that's going to have an identifier that's 40 feet tall. It's going to be a megalith, and we'll be able to have a turning light on the top of it, whatever. Something completely innovative and different. But it is something that, in discussing with you, it is something that, well, this is going to be really bring a lot of business, going to bring a lot of people. This is something that, then let's have the ability to come in and do something innovative. But they got to do a lot of work up front. They got to give you a particular design. They have to show what the sign's going to look like, how it's going to be engineered, where it's going to be. It's a full site plan for signage. So that way, it becomes, instead of, well, here's our box that you got to fit your signs in. You show us the way the box is, but what you see as council approving this is what you're going to get. So then you have a discretionary vote, be able to say, I don't like that, we're voting it down. Come back and try again. And what this does is it allows innovation, it allows different material choices, it allows heights, all that kind of stuff based on how the approach of the building, how the approach of the subdivision, how the approach of a large commercial development. And if it ever comes to pass, if you're going to have a large commercial development that would have a target and have multiple pad sites out front, have a unified sign development plan, because that way you can limit the number of monument signs, so start consolidating those so that, you got 5 businesses out front and 1 big business behind, then you have a consolidated sign plan instead of everybody getting their own little sign all the way through. So what that does is that helps brand the product and so there's a known quantity from the developer, and he can keep a unified signs all the way across his development, and it gives you, again, what you see is what you're going to get, and it gives you a confidence to say, I know how this is going to be developed. And we know that because a lot of these commercial developments come in piecemeal, and so that way every single one of them is going to be in compliance with this unified site plan.
So, with this, hypothetically, with this, say you had commercial development like maybe like 7-Eleven,
okay.
Does that fall under this?
If they can come in with signs that meet your standard ordinance, then let them come in with a sign that meets your standard ordinance. If they come in with a sign that doesn't meet that, if they need to have 3 monument signs and a pole sign that's 50 feet, well, prove it to us that that's the way it's going to work, and show us if it's going to be exceeding whatever height limit that based on that. Prove it to us by showing us an elevation of that sign based on site visibility on the roadway, or whatever it is in terminology. But you're able to have it in a unified sign plan allows you the discretionary ability to say, give us more information. I can't make a decision until you tell us in exactly how that sign is going to operate on this property and not become a nuisance to others.
So the council will be able to, how would you identify that as a variance or?
No, sir. This is a complete permit that is something that they have to bring to you. It would be reviewed by staff, and they would bring to you, and you would approve it as a permit.
That David, that development right over here that just came in the other day that wants to build a commercial building. So all the signs for every one of those buildings have to be the same. So
Oh,
So it's gonna be,
Yeah, it can be, but now they might be innovative, but you can limit what the number of signs, you can limit what they look like, you can do anything you want with them. So
now, thank you. You
Like,
might
if they want to
sign.
put a windmill in the front, put a sign to name the business complex, obviously it doesn't fit within our cycle, but maybe they have a windmill theme throughout their development. Because they're on their side, they got a little windmill design or something. Then yeah, it's something that's innovative that maybe something the council may want to say, okay, well, in this case, we're gonna allow that, or, no, we don't wanna allow it here, but.
I understand that. I was thinking this is just another term for variance.
no, so this is innovation rather than variance. I want to exceed your standards, but I want to do it in a unique way. So let me ask permission.
Good, I like that.
Is that it?
That's what I got. Now, there's a lot of other smaller signs, everything from an A-frame sign to a human sign. You know what a human sign is? That's defined in there. That's a guy sitting there. We've got that defined.
There can't be enough money doing that.
Oh my gosh. Especially in Texas, are you kidding me?
Right, in the summer?
at least the people that dress up in suits and walk around like.
And the gorilla suits.
Yeah, the gorilla suits.
So, we've got a couple of weeks. Let me come back and I'll make some of the modifications based on your feedback tonight. We've got a couple of weeks before we come back to you for an approval. We can still change based on your vote on the approval. If there's still something that you don't like at the public hearing, tell us. We'll make it change and we'll base your vote on, we'll approve this with these changes. We can certainly do that. Please take the ordinance. If you have any questions, please follow along through your city staff so that I can get that feedback and we'll make sure that we get you the right information and we'll get that taken care of for you. I really appreciate the opportunity to bring you guys a sign ordinance. This is my 5th that I have written based on this kind of format, and I really think it works. And I think it is something that a lot of cities have been able to enforce without too much trouble. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you for staying up late with us.
I'm just glad we're getting ahead of the wave.
Yes, sir. Fine.
Someday.
That's it, right? That's it. Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We're out of here.
All those in favor say aye. All right.
Thank you, council, for your time and
This is
attention.
the National EMS Conference this year. I think it's in Tampa, somewhere in Florida. September or something like that? It's in Florida somewhere. You should go. So Orlando.
We also won.
It's September 28th to October 2nd.
Yeah.